When you think of pirates, what comes to mind? Swashbuckling adventurers, treasure chests overflowing with gold, and, of course, the legendary buried treasure. But did pirates actually bury their loot? Or is it just another tall tale spun by storytellers? In today's video, we're diving into the truth behind the myth of pirates and their buried treasure. Pirates have captured our imagination for centuries, and the idea of buried treasure was immortalized by novels like Treasure Island by Robert Louis Stevenson, published in 1883. But before it was a literary classic, the myth of pirate treasure began to take root in the real world. Stevenson's novel was hugely popular and did a lot to cement the idea of pirates burying treasure on remote islands. But was this practice actually something pirates did in real life, or was it all just fiction? Let's start by understanding how pirates made their money. During the Golden Age of Piracy, roughly the 17th and early 18th centuries, pirates were mostly plunderers, attacking ships and coastal towns to steal gold, silver, and other valuables. But burying their loot was not the standard practice. Pirates typically spent their loot quickly, often in port cities where they'd celebrate their victories by buying food, alcohol, or supplies. They didn't need to bury treasure because they wanted to enjoy it. After all, piracy was a dangerous lifestyle, and it wasn't guaranteed they'd live long enough to hide their riches. While the idea of pirates burying treasure might seem fictional, there is one real-life pirate who contributed to the myth, Captain William Kidd. In the late 1600s, Kidd was an infamous pirate and privateer. Before he was caught and executed, it's rumored that he buried some of his treasure on an island in the Caribbean. The story goes that Kidd buried his treasure on Gardiner's Island off the coast of New York, but the treasure was never fully recovered. Despite extensive searches over the centuries, no one has ever found it. This story, combined with other pirate legends, sparked the idea that pirates routinely buried their loot. Despite Kidd's case, there's little evidence that most pirates buried their treasure. Why? Because it was far more practical to keep the loot on their ships or spend it as quickly as possible. Remember, pirates were nomadic, moving from port to port. Burying treasure would have been risky. They might not have been able to return for it, or worse, it could have been stolen before they had a chance to claim it. And there were always risks on the open seas, storms, mutiny, and the constant threat of capture. If a pirate buried treasure, there's a good chance it would have been lost forever. So what about treasure maps? They're iconic in pirate lore, right? Well, pirates did use maps, but they were typically for navigating and marking trade routes, not for hiding treasure. The idea of an X marks the spot was mostly a literary invention. The truth is, pirates didn't need treasure maps because their wealth wasn't typically hidden in secret spots. If they were hiding anything, it would be in places like caves or hidden compartments on their ships. So, why do we still believe in the idea of buried pirate treasure? The mystique of treasure and the romanticized image of pirates hiding their loot has been passed down through stories, films, and folklore. But in reality, pirates were much more focused on immediate reward rather than long-term hiding schemes. Though we may never find actual buried pirate treasure on a distant island, the myth continues to spark our imagination. Pirates will forever be linked to the promise of riches, whether buried in the sand or buried in legend.